My name is Jason James. I am the creative director here at Fig Industries in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I started here at Fig Industries as an art director, but I came from a long history of switching between whether I wanted to do something like film as my creative outlet or do something like creative direction or graphic design. Like most of us start as a kid. We just want to sketch, we want to draw, we want to look at Dragon Ball Z and make those crazy kind of marks and colors. I would just describe myself as a kid, and thankfully I think I would describe myself as an adult, as inquisitive. I'm always interested in how a story can blossom and be different from what I thought it would be. Growing up, I remember my dad coming into our room and kicking the door and saying, "This is the story of the big bad wolf." And he would break it down and act out all the characters. And me and my brother would laugh and we would cry and we would see how these stories kind of shared different aspects of what we thought the big bad wolf and the three little pigs would be about. So he always kind of turned it on his head and gave us this kind of different perspective on what stories could be. I would read tons of books, I would draw tons of pictures, and I would collaborate with my brother and sister, and I would continue building on movies that I'd seen. All of that creative input kind of made me always questioning, how could I change this? How could I add to this story? I went to a charter high school in Philadelphia called Charter High School for Architecture and Design, and I had phenomenal teachers that saw the potential that was within me and said, let's strengthen and let's sharpen you to be able to do it even better so that you can achieve the goals that you want to achieve. I remember one of the biggest things that I loved to do was draw my favorite basketball heroes or my favorite superheroes. And what I really was able to do at that time and with those teachers was to learn about dimensionality and perspective and shading and making sure that the things that I was trying to communicate with my artwork were pushed just a little bit more to that next level. All of those things really kind of came together for me as I continued to practice, as I continued to look at references and continue to be bold and making mistakes and pushing my drawings as far as they could go. So when leaving Charter High School for Architecture and Design, I moved on to a school called Messiah College, which is now Messiah University. And I went in as a film major and communications major. When I was a film major, I was kind of questioning whether I would stay in this track. So I had to make a lot of decisions, and a friend came to me and said, "Hey, I've seen some of your artwork. I think you should think about graphic design." I didn't really understand that you could make a living out of drawing and creating logos and creating a brand. Didn't even know what a brand was. But with his encouragement, I was able to explore the opportunities. And then from there, when I switched my major to graphic design, I was able to kind of bring all that knowledge that I got of story building into the work that I was doing. The story is probably the most important thing when we talk about design and we talk about film. And so in college, I had professors that started to tell me about how do I break down story. I watched tons of movies, tons of fun and engaging stories that talked about a plethora of different things, and then kind of broke them down and analyzed what makes these stories special. One of the things that we love about Pixar is that there are these universal themes that are able to be expressed in very simple ways. These ways allow people to connect with each other and to see, hey, that person that's on the street isn't a lot different from who I am. I love that as a graphic designer, as a storyteller, I get to every day come to work and to tell these stories that inspire people. I do tons of short little drawings to help me get inspired. You can do that in any space that you find yourself in. You can be in a coffee shop, you can be at your desk, you can be in the bathroom if you need to. Thankfully, I get to do it in a beautiful office. I come into work every day in downtown Lancaster into a very cool curated office with tons of inspirational images and things to kind of help me get my creative juices flowing. We do a lot of collaborations at our working table, which is super helpful for cutting pieces of paper and putting together presentations. But I'll come to my, as I call it, my Batman control center, where I have a few different monitors that are set up so that I can review documents on one page, or review an email on another page, or put up a reference of an image that I really love on one page, and then on another screen being able to work on the creative design that I'm working on. But it all starts with the pencil. It all starts with sketching out my idea so that I can have this base of where to go, that I have almost a rough roadmap of how to create the things that I am tasked with creating. From there, I kind of push it into the digital world with tools like Adobe InDesign, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop. All of these kind of things work together to create the stories that we're telling. So I got the pleasurable opportunity to work on this book called Urban Legend, about a little-known architect who actually designed a lot of buildings in the city of Lancaster. One of my favorite things about this book is the hidden feature, which is a timeline. This timeline kind of talks about the legacy of this gentleman who was able to do it. The fun thing about it is that it flips out, and you get to kind of get a whole list of many of the projects that he was able to work on in his lifetime. I think with most creatives, the challenging thing is always coming up with a new idea and putting the pressure on yourself to be unique and authentic and different from what other people have done. But I think if you think back to the example of Pixar, they are taking things that have been used over and over and over again, and they change things, but they use a similar base. And so it's not always about being novel. It's not always about doing something that no one else has done and being utterly unique, but it's about giving myself the leeway to learn from people who've gone on this road before me, and to have the wisdom to say, oh, this person has made way in this area, and I can kind of take a piece of what they did and take a piece of what this person does and kind of put it together to make a whole new solution. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me and to hear what I have to say. I hope I've inspired you to find a cool job that you can love for life.